Hello everyone, this is Pastor Joe of Sea Life Ministries, and today we are going to continue in our study in the book of Philippians. So let's start off with verse 19. For I know that this will turn out for my deliverance through your prayer and the supply of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, according to my earnest expectation and hope that in nothing I shall be ashamed, but with all boldness as always. So now also Christ will be magnified in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. But if I live on in the flesh, this will mean fruit for my labor, yet what I shall choose I cannot tell. For I am hard pressed between the two, having a desire to depart and be with Christ, which is far better. Nevertheless, to remain in the flesh is more needful for you. So going back to verse 19, when Paul says, my deliverance, that is from the basic Greek term for salvation. Some translations do use that word, but it can be used interchangeably. But it can also be rendered as well-being or escape, which means there could be at least four possibilities for the interpretations. It refers to Paul's ultimate salvation, which is what we are all looking forward to. It alludes to his deliverance from the threatened execution. He would finally be vindicated by the emperor's ruling, or Paul is talking about his eventual release from prison, because he did write this letter in prison, and that would be something I'm sure all of us would look forward to. Whatever Paul's precise meaning, he was certain he would be freed from his temporary distress. And then when he talks about the Spirit of Jesus Christ, that does mean the Holy Spirit. Paul had supreme confidence in the Spirit, which I believe we all should. I like what I hear when I'm listening to the radio or reading different commentaries. The same Spirit that we read about in the Bible is available to us today, so we really should harness that power and use it for the glory of God and preaching and telling people about Christ and what he has done. Now, verse 21 is probably a familiar verse to some of us. To me to live is Christ and to die is gain. For Paul, life is summed up in Jesus Christ. Christ was his reason for being, and to die is gain. Death would relieve him of earthly burdens and let him focus totally on glorifying God. So, you're sitting in prison. I guess I would be contemplating both, and it actually would be a difficult decision, because that Christ puts us on the earth to go around and preach him, but yet I'm sure we long for heaven, and that would be far better. So I think I can understand Paul's indecision here. In fact, in verse 23, when he says hard-pressed, it's a Greek word that pictures a traveler on a narrow path, a rock wall on either side, allowing him to go only straight ahead. And depart and be with Christ, Paul knew if he died, he would have complete, conscious, intimate, unhindered relationship with his Lord. And that would be far better, which means very much better, the highest superlative. But then we can see where Paul's coming around again, and he talks about him staying on earth would be more needful for you. Paul yielded his personal desire to be with the Lord for the necessity of the building of the church. All right, now let's pick up in verse 25. And being confident of this, I know that I shall remain and continue with you all for your progress and joy of faith, that your rejoicing for me may be more abundant in Jesus Christ by my coming to you again. Now, when Paul talks about progress here, what that picture is trailblazing so that an army can advance. And Paul wanted to cut a new path for the Philippians to follow to victory. the increasing of their faith would result in the increasing of their joy. And rejoicing for me, where he talks about that in Jesus Christ, the Greek word order is that your rejoicing may be more abundant in Jesus Christ for me. Because again, Paul, he didn't want any of the glory, because he knew that preaching Jesus and putting him first is part of his ministry. Now, 27 through 30. Only let your conduct be worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of your affairs, that you stand fast in one spirit, with one mind, striving together for the faith of the gospel, and not in any way terrified by your adversary, which is to them a proof of perdition, but to you of salvation, and that from God. For to you it has been granted on behalf of Christ, not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for his sake, having the same conflict which you saw in me, and now here is in me. Now, when Paul talks about one spirit and one mind, that theme of unity that continues from here all the way through chapter 2, verse 4, his call for genuine unity of heart and mind is based on the necessity of oneness to win the spiritual battle for the faith, and striving together, what that literally means is to struggle along with someone. As the Bible does say, that we are all one body but different members, but we are all to be one together for Christ. And I found it interesting in verse 28, where Paul talks about proof of perdition. When believers willingly suffer without being terrified, it is a sign that God's enemies will be destroyed and eternally lost. Now in verse 29, I'm glad that Paul points out that it's granted on behalf of Christ not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for his sake. Yes, the Christian life is a good and wonderful life, and we do have eternal salvation, but even in what comes to my mind right now is in the book of James, where it talks about, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials. It doesn't say if, so I just wanted to point that out. And then rounding out the chapter in verse 30, having the same conflict which you saw in me, and now here is in me. Paul just wanted to let them know, yes, you will suffer, but, I have also. So it's not that he is, that saying, do as I say and not as I do. The same conflict, the same kind of suffering Paul had experienced, you saw. This refers to the Philippians witness when Paul and Silas were imprisoned at Philippi. So that rounds out chapter 1. I hope you enjoyed it. And next time we will begin on chapter 2. Until then, God bless you. Have a great day.